Hey there, commercial construction coffee talk fans. Thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation magazine. This is what it used to look like. This is the archives, May, June 2014. Bill Newbold, Senior Director of Operations for Cycle Gear. They're headquartered out of California, but they have bike shops where you can buy all your helmets and gloves and all that stuff to keep yourself safe. And, I ride. So we had Bill. And Bill, thanks for being on the cover. But we went digital August of 2021. Haven't printed the magazine. I'm 100% digital now, and in that digital on the Wild Wild West on the web, and I haven't looked back since. Had about 29 million people hit our website last year consuming content. So thank you so much for all you out there. And hopefully we'll go over 30 million this year. I just looked at the stats, and if I keep my momentum up for the next 5 months, I should just go over. So, but regardless, that's a lot of people. And we have software on our site that gets rid of all the bots. So when I say I have what our stats are, they're legit. Okay, because we kick them off. You can put a website up on the web, and in like 2 seconds, you're getting hacked and attacked by spiders and all these guys, and it just your stats. So my web guy, when we read to the website, he goes, "Hey, we want to put this thing on there, and you should see it. I can go through all these people who are trying to attack my site. They're from all over the world, and it doesn't matter where you are. You put a new website up on the web, you're getting attacked, and about probably 30%, are probably going to be bots." Depending on how good your SEO is and they find you and stuff. But we got rid of those guys, so we've got a pretty good firewall, and so my stats are legit. So hope everybody. It's Friday, TGIF. Hope everybody's had a great week. It's time to recharge your battery mindset, get ready for another week. And we're in the dog days of summer. It's really, really hot. In fact, I just had the power go out. Just before we're getting this podcast going, I'm like, come on. I'm all set up. I'm ready to go. Anyway, power's on. So let's hope it won't go off. Anyway, the reason, I say dog days of summer because it's really hot. And, I always tell people, look, if you're out there on the construction site, we want you to be safe. So you get home, see your family, so you get up and do it again the next day. And I always say, listen, I don't care if it's summer or winter. You got to stay hydrated on the construction site, because not you get dehydration, headaches. It's ugly, man. It's painful. So today, I've got a nice lady up outside of the great city of Hartford, Connecticut. Hopefully, I said it with my twang there. Her name is Torey McLaren, and she's with Travelers, and she's in the Industrial Hygiene Division at Travelers. So, Torey, say hello to our audience out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great Friday, and thanks for having me, Dave.
No, we appreciate it. And listen, the way that Torey got on here, the publicist, the PR firm, they sent me a nice note, and they said, "Hey, would you like this to be a nice guest?" They talk about people keep safe on the construction sites and being hydrated, and I just, I talk about it all the time. So I was like, "Yeah, this is great." So Torey, welcome to the show. And the way we're going to do this is we do it in 3 parts. You're going to tell your story, where you grew up, where you went to school, and how you ended up at, Travelers. Then we'll talk about the last 3 years of lessons learned and how you kind of weathered the storm, or any, cool initiatives that you have coming out there, Travelers, that our construction folks out there would find of interest. And then you'll leave one positive thought or phrase in your contact info for our listeners. So with that said, the floor is yours. Tell us your story.
Okay. This is the story of how I became an industrial hygienist, or maybe
just your
more
story
so
in general, from where you grew up, and you can lead and finish with that, and then we'll get into the second part. Okay.
All right. So where I grew up is a small rural town in upstate New York, and it is called Otsego. The nearest city is Oneonta, and it's very close to Cooperstown, with the Baseball Hall of Fame for any baseball fans out there. So I'm the youngest of 3. I have an older brother and an older sister, and we lived with my mother. My parents were divorced, but my father was still always around, and we saw him regularly. But growing up, my graduating class, it was a small town. My graduating class was about 60 people, and I just remember we were always doing something. So we were heavily involved in athletics, both inside, outside school, and music, our local church. And then also, when we weren't doing any of that, we also had jobs on the side. And my first job, was with my sister. We worked on a local horse farm down the road from where we grew up, and we also had horses, so we're very familiar with that type of work. But during the school year, that's what we did on the weekends. We worked at the horse farm, and then in the summer, we're always at every day we're there, and also doing other jobs like painting fences. One summer we had to reglaze window frames, so all that good stuff that has to be done.
Mhm.
And I remember, like, as we growing up and uh, looking back, our friends would always be like, "Man, you guys were always like." You always had to go do the horses. Like you could never stick around and hang out. You're always like doing some horses. And it's like, yep, yeah, yeah, we're always taking care of one thing or another. But that kept us busy. So it was always good. And taught some good work ethic, I
Yeah,
would say.
yeah, for sure.
um, then, so probably it was my senior year. I just got accepted to Clarkson University to get my bachelor's degree, and I decided I would study chemistry. I really enjoyed that in high school, so I was like, why not? I think that sounds good. And it was the summer of my sophomore year. I had an internship at the university in a organic chemistry lab, and I was finding myself in the lab every day doing very similar things. And it kind of hit me like maybe this isn't really for me. I do like science and chemistry, but the same thing every day. Uh, I was getting a little uneasy about that. So I started talking to some other people about other options. And at that time, I also worked at the chemistry stockroom at the university, which there we prepared solutions, took care of hazardous waste for a lot of the undergraduate labs. So the manager of the stockroom suggested looking into industrial hygiene. And it just so happened that Clarkson University has an undergraduate program in industrial hygiene. So I went to talk to that professor, and it just seemed like a pretty interesting field, getting out in industry, seeing different operations. That sounds good. I'm going to try that. So I graduated with a double degree in chemistry and industrial hygiene, and I ended up uh, going to grad school. I have my master's from Harvard School of Public Health, and that is in also industrial hygiene. So I spent 2 years in Boston studying, and am very thankful for that opportunity. Once I graduated from Harvard, I decided I was going to move to Connecticut because that's where my now husband was already working. So also at the time of graduating, I someone told me insurance companies will often hire industrial hygiene specialists, and I had no idea. So I was like, well, I guess if I'm going to Connecticut, where it's the land of
Yeah,
insurance,
yeah, sure. Headquarters.
I'll look into that. And I ended up interviewing with Travelers Industrial Hygiene Group and was offered a job, and I started there uh, 10 years ago tomorrow. So it seems to have stuck.
Well, good for you.
Yeah.
At least you're using what you went to school for. I mean,
Yes.
a lot of
Yep.
people go to school and they don't use it. Listen, I was a double major. I was economics, political science, but I really was a hockey lacrosse player. I know Clarkson University very well, the green and yellow guys, and I think we actually played them last year. They were on the schedule for DU. So, very familiar with all those schools up there in upstate New York, and they're all high top. But I didn't know that industrial hygiene was a major that you could actually go. And I'm thinking just maybe chemistry or construction management or so forth. So
Mhm.
good for you. And just talking about your past, working in the summers, I did the same thing, and always had to have a job. And all the grandsons had to go into the scrapyard when you got your license at 16. So kudos for you for not doing the stuff on the weekends. And listen, your friends, hey, well, how can we hang? You know what, you're molding yourself, and all those things that you did probably got you where you are today and getting hired by travelers and so forth. So wise decision on the fork of the road that you had to make that decision. So good for you. The reason actually why I also had you on here was because, in the bio on the PR piece that we got from you, it was all about, staying hydrated and, the other issues about construction safety. And, you out there on listening on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, we want everybody to be safe. You always hear me say, hey, we want you to get home at night, want you to stay hydrated. It doesn't matter if it's hot or cold, you still can get hydrated. And so all of these issues, especially with the labor shortage, you don't want anybody calling in sick or getting hurt, because it's very, very tough to find staffing these days. So I just thought it was a nice intro. Feeling it is the dog days of summer, and the power's going on and off. So hopefully it'll stay on here. But we're going to do this in 3 parts. Like I said, you just did your bio on yourself. Let's talk about our second phase of our interview, where we'll talk about the last 3 years of the roller coaster that we've all been on. March 2020 comes. Everything gets shut down, and then it's going to be a couple of weeks. Here we are 3 years later, and we're still talking about things. And it's been a rough road, and a lot of people have learned all sorts of things. To improve their businesses, about their own personal life. Being safe. Washing your hands, don't touch your face, all those kind of things. Talk about travelers and how they kind of weathered the storm and helped companies kind of keep if they were made essential and so forth. Like construction, people just went along with their business. They put their mask on, they got on the planes, and they went in. They couldn't stop construction. I mean, just about everything was made essential. And it depended on what state you were in too, because regulations in one state would have been completely different. Like here in Georgia, we opened up. We really, we didn't really shut down, but they had regulations on the site. There were 3 projects that were going on where we were, and I watched them all get built. And they all had implemented different strategies, to keep their construction staff safe. Whether it was scheduling or having the PPP on the site, and so all of those. And I talked to a ton of people, so everybody did it differently. Talk about how kind of travelers, not only internally at travelers, how you guys weathered it, but also how you advised your customers, especially, we're in construction, so we'd like to hear that, but there might be some other lessons that you talked about, just in general, that our listeners out there would find of interest.
Sure. So I would say probably one of the biggest things for travelers and like many other businesses is that travelers had to adjust to the more virtual environment. So, risk control consultants, we weren't able to go out on job sites. So we really had to evaluate how can travelers still help support businesses when we're not being able to see them face to face. So really the content and expertise that was provided over the last few years hasn't changed. It was just how did travelers connect to businesses still? And we just learned that, this can be done virtually. And just working with businesses, being open to that as well. We really, just worked through it, and here we are today. One of the tools that Travelers Industrial Hygiene has that really helped, it was in place, longer than 3 years ago,
Right.
but it's the equipment loan program. So before, we were still able to help customers, especially construction, where work schedules are different all the time. Travelers Lab could help provide equipment to evaluate these occupational health hazards and help virtually talk people through setting up the equipment to help evaluate those. And then we could review results and provide feedback. So really, over the last 3 years, that tool that we already had in place was just essential to still staying connected to businesses, staying connected to contractors, and help supporting keeping employees safe, because employees were still working. People were still doing stuff, getting work done. So that tool, equipment loan, we're able to still connect. And even though we weren't there in person, we're still able to provide that expertise and help mitigate, hazards and risks.
Yeah. So I'm taking it that the people that were in the office, you guys were sent home and you worked out of your house, just like a lot of people did, right?
Yes. In the so Travelers has their own industrial hygiene lab, and that is also based in Connecticut. So there we have chemists and equipment, um, people who maintain equipment. Uh, they were still somewhat going in on a limited basis, so we had to adjust that work schedule. But
Mhm.
essentially, it was still functioning throughout, even when everybody else, like the IH specialists, were kind of grounded
Right.
to being at home. That was still functioning.
Tell us a little about some of the diversity of some of the hygiene products and so forth that you had in place before the shutdown and stuff happened. What's that makeup, as far as that product line?
Okay, so I guess I'll start with the Travelers Lab, the Industrial Hygiene Lab. So
Sure.
what we have there is various equipment. We have noise monitoring equipment, air monitoring equipment that can be used in the field on job sites, and essentially that's used to evaluate people's exposures to these various hazards, and that can include heat, noise, and chemicals. And those can be sent out. We walk through with our contacts, business partners, how to set the equipment up so that they can evaluate what their employees are being exposed to, and then they send everything back for analysis. And from there, we talk about mitigation strategies, different types of controls that they can consider. Yeah, so it's essentially, air, noise monitoring, and then also heat evaluations as well.
Yeah. Well, you're just basically, you're getting data on the site, you're coming
Mhm,
back, looking at it, and then you probably put a report together. You sit down and say, hey, here are the things that we suggest that you do.
mhm,
Make you, maybe it'll bring your premium down. I don't know, but yeah, just in general, it's a way that you can have that added extra protection that your staff or your laborers, workers, call them what you want, that they know that, hey, you're looking out for them and that
mhm.
want to make sure that you're as safe as possible, because safety in construction, that's like probably the most important thing, and we, like I said, we want everybody to get home every night. So um as the you know, some projects were made essential, some weren't. Like I said, it depended on regulations in the state that you were working in. If you were working on a highway project and you were outside and you didn't have to be close and so forth, you were probably more able to get things done. But if you were, let's say, a plumber or an electrician and you were doing an inside job, you couldn't be close to people, depending on, once again, all with the regulations, depending on what state you were in. Um, you might be able to get a project done in one, and the other one, hey, it's not going to happen. So these were the things that people had to go. The biggest thing that I think that talking to customers was, God, what's my contract going to look like? Because I have to have that liability question on there of, if someone gets sick on the site and they get home and they get someone sick and, there's, maybe, hopefully not anything catastrophic, but, some of that stuff happened. That was the biggest thing that I think in the beginning that people were worried about. Just like myself, I was an event guy, and I just had my 10th anniversary summit in Jacksonville, and I was looking into hotels. Actually, I was on the road in March when everything got shut down, and I was fighting with the hotel, saying, "Look, I need to have this jargon." A legal word salad in the contract, because you're only looking at for yourself, and like for me, I have to have that F&B and I have to get the hotels. Well, I can block off the hotels, but you're not going to buy the food my rubber chicken or powdered eggs I'm going to serve at my gig at the hotel. You're not going to buy that stuff a couple days before or have it delivered. So I'm taking all the risk, and you're just sitting on it. And then if something happens, they can't travel. I'm basically out of luck. So these were the things that people were looking at, and not only from the safety hazard, but just in general, trying to keep their company running on as many, at full steam ahead, but also having that liability kind of way over their head of, hey, how am I going to get that done? And the most amazing thing is, I look back like World War II, where the whole country got mobilized and they made everybody, that were, manufacturers, help the war effort and make sure our troops had everything that they needed. And a lot of companies that I know, whether they were in fixtures, lighting, a lot of the craft brew guys, they were doing the hand sanitizers. Everybody kind of came in. So I thought even that, I always try to make a negative into a positive. You put in a sports analogy. Hey, we practice all week. It's halftime. We got to scrap that whole thing because our game plan's not working. We got to go this way. So a lot of people, kind of pivoted and they realized that, wow, I can make masks. I can do the PPE shields for the cash wraps. I can do all of these things. And what was really cool was that a lot of the things that they came up with, like you had all these other things, your hygiene line before, but there were probably other new equipment that you came in, site checking to see if you have a fever and all that kind of stuff. All of that stuff can still stay in place to make sure that they can even be that much safer. You know where I'm coming from,
Mhm.
from, that stance. So, as things, you were doing things virtually and obviously people put those initiatives in. Do you see them maintaining those, now that things have opened up? And what other new initiatives do you have coming up that you've learned from the last 3 years that, you're looking at, or new products that, our listeners out there, especially, use heat as an example. So,
Mhm. I would say it's I think that just being able to help virtually businesses evaluate these exposures, I think people have learned like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't too bad. I can collect this data. Travelers IH is or industrial hygienist is just a phone call away. So coming out of it, I think that Travelers Industrial Hygiene Group has found that businesses are still requesting this virtual assistance and not necessarily just asking for somebody to come out on site, which we still can. But I think that's, in general, people are just more open to that now versus just having us take a look at it on site and then, report back. So I think that just going forward allows a lot more flexibility. So when we're not able to get out there, businesses can still collect data and we can still work on something together versus just saying like, oh, an IH specialist is not able to get out, sorry. So I think it just adds to the flexibility in what we can do and what businesses we can connect with. Um,
Zoom is an amazing thing. I was doing Zoom well before, March 2020. And I was actually just going to start my podcast there. So I was ready to go out and do interviews on the construction site and we were going to do them there. And then here I am now and I just do them in here. But the one thing that, everybody does Zoom or Teams or whatever
mhm,
platform you're on.
yeah.
And it has made people so much more efficiently. You can't take away from that in-person gig. So people are very selective on who they're going to go see when they know that they have to go see. Like if I'm a construction manager and I have to go look at something that's an hour and a half ride and it's only going to take me 5 minutes to look at it, you can do this on Zoom or FaceTime or
Mhm,
whatever. But other things where, there might be a serious issue that you're going to, so you can pick and choose where you're going to go and do those things and still get a ton of stuff done, via the Zoom. Listen, your phone is the best tool that you can have in your arsenal. And I
mhm,
suggest that all of you, listen, if you have clients, get their Gmail, get their cell phone, put it in here, because if anything happens, and people were furloughed, offices. I remember I was fighting with my printer back in 2020, going, oh my God, why am I going to print this magazine? Half my magazines are going to go to offices that are closed. No one's going to see it. It's a waste of paper and ink and postage. Why should I do that? And then we just decided, let's just do the digital thing. And so we did, we made the move, but I went through the same thing. All of these things as a business owner, what am I going to do? We were already virtual, and I already had a digital magazine. So I really, I was prepared, and I was working out of the house. So I didn't, I could do it. Some people can't work out of the house. They have to be in an office. And some people that have to go into the office, but like yourself, being an industrial hygienist, you could probably help a lot of people online. But if you had to go out there and you were permitted to, it was a probably nice thing that, hey, you actually could see someone. But now that we're opened up, but Zoom's not going away. Teams, all that is digital. No. It's here to stay. Yeah. It's cut down on travel. If you're a hybrid, you're working out of your house, you're not burning gas, you get to see your kids come home from school. I mean, it's just made a whole different, I had my podcast guest yesterday. She said it was work equity, trying to make sure that, there's a balance of life and work. And then if you have to go in the office, they want to make it as appealing and comfortable as possible. So I totally get that, the technological thing, but it's not going away. The pendulum's not going to swing back and forth. This is here, and it's just it's been a godsend. I mean, there's people that I had a project manager one day that said, "Hey, one day I was in Europe, UK, South Africa, they were all over." Kuwait, did a couple walkthroughs in Canada, and finished up with a site visit in Latin America. That would have taken weeks to do if you were on a plane, but here you can do it all in one day. So it's an amazing thing, technology. And now with AI and everything else coming in, but it doesn't change the structure. It doesn't matter what you're selling, flooring, lighting. You guys are doing safety and hygiene. That it really has been a learning process. Some people had to get used to it, but it's not going away. It's made business, I think, much, much more efficient, and kept their staffs, and they were able to still keep their company culture. So, do you have any new products that are coming down the pipe for travelers that people should know about out there?
I don't know if I can speak to that. I mean, we're
okay.
Gonna keep, maintaining equipment and doing what we can just to assist businesses virtually. But what I like to do is, all this industrial hygiene equipment is just it can be expensive. It can be a lot to try to request equipment and then set it up. For certain things, I like to refer to that good old phone, because on it, there's some amazing apps out there. And we're here to talk about heat stress, and just like, you don't need a fancy heat stress meter, because there's OSHA and NIOSH have like a heat safety tool that is a great guideline that can be used, or reference point where anybody can just put it on their phone and they can look at it, and just depending on their location, it'll tell them like what precautions to take just based on the temperature and relative humidity of where they're located at that time. So there's just technology. There's so many tools that people have access to now, and that's a great one. As construction sites, anybody can take it out and be like, oh, we gotta think about this, and be prepared for the day, and make sure we have everything in place, that plenty of water, increased work breaks, and everything like that. And it is a very good screening tool.
How closely do you work with OSHA? I mean, are they involved in, kind of your issues, or do you bounce stuff off of them, or how do you, because I mean, they're kind of like the authority of what needs to get done, so
right, they are the regulatory body, but we don't work with them directly. There are the OSHA exposure limits, which are regulatory enforceable exposure limits, which we will cite, or we'll reference or compare exposure data to that, because most companies will want to see where they come in when it's compared to the OSHA standards. But we also use some recommended exposure standards as well. One of the most common is the ACGIH, the American Conference of Governmental Industrial Hygienists. They have just a lot of exposure limits out there, threshold
Sure.
limit values that we'll also reference. And those are typically more conservative than the OSHA standards. So, but we'll reference both, and we'll make recommendations based on both of those guidelines and the regulatory limits.
Just think, when you were working in the horse farm, you knew it was really hot. You could have had your phone there, but they didn't exist back then. But you could,
I know. Yeah.
hey, it's a little hot in here. Do you think we should take a break, or you should put some fans in here to keep us cool? Or, what are you going to do
Yeah.
with a horse? You know where I'm coming from? So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
So listen, we were in construction. So I remember when I was shoveling asbestos, or I was in the yard, and, we all had to take the shower to get the lead off before we left the premises. So OSHA's been around for forever. I mean, it's, listen, the government is the largest contractor in the world. They've been building for over 200 years. They know, they have a lot of data. They have a lot of stuff. So being kind of tied to the hip to them, and having their data at your access can really be influential in helping your customers. Because listen, a lot of these guys, they think they know everything, but there might be something that as simple as putting a hand washing station in there, or during the summer, hey, everybody's got to take a break, every 15, 40, and drink a 16 thing of water, or whatever it might be. So all of these things can, take away from, staying safe, and as well as, heat stress. Talk about heat stress, and how it can be deadly. So,
Yeah.
talk about that just in general, from what you know about it.
Sure. And so when we're talking about extreme heat environments, what the concern is heat related illnesses, that heat exhaustion, and heat stroke. And actually, if I have some factoids I would like to share with you,
Yeah, sure.
just to put in frame why we're talking about this. So this is from the CDC website. They have a page about heat stress in construction. So there was a study done between 1992 and 2016, and it showed that there were 285 construction workers who died from heat-related causes. And that is more than a third of all US occupational deaths from heat exposure. So that's a raw number right there. And it is possible that the heat related deaths are undercounted just due to misclassification. So there's a chance it could be more. Another fact I pulled out of this was about 75% of these fatalities occur during summer months, June, July, and August. That's why we're here. We're right in the middle of that. And then also these non-fatal heat-related illnesses are also very common, and that those illnesses may not be captured in the surveillance data because they often go unreported.
Yeah.
So it's like there are these facts out there. It is an issue, and there's a chance that there could be more going on because it's just not reported.
Listen, when you have heat stroke, or you're heat exhausted, you're not your best. You're not running at 100%. So if you did get hurt, it's kind of that same conundrum that we've all gone through here, where you had diabetes, you were obese or whatever, but you also had this, and they coded it as that, and so heat exhaustion, listen, it's nothing you're all in construction out there. Like I said, if you're not feeling good, you're not your best, you make mistakes, you might slice your finger or whatever. And, that it's all hand in hand. So heat, it's just like staying cold, your fingers go numb, you can't, it's the same thing. So, but heat is just it can really do some damage if, if you're not hydrated, if you don't have the right types of breaks. I know, like during the summer when I was coaching my son, during practice, every 15, 20 water break, blow the whistle, get yourself, drink up, and then, we get back at it. And you never want to see that stuff. So it's good to know that, travelers, not only is just thinking about this, but, it's just like anything else. Cigarettes used to be, oh, no big deal, but now they know that, they can cost us. So heat being in the months that we are right now, in the dog days of summer, it's very, very dangerous, and I don't care how good a health you are, you never know when that's going to hit you. So kudos to Travelers and all the other insurance companies out there that are looking at it too, because I know you all see, it's just like anything else. You see someone else doing it, you don't want to copy, but that's a really good idea. You can tweak it to the way that you want it. So it's good to have that information out there, and that, there's, and also that OSHA's not the only person or entity out there that has this data, that you have another one where you can kind of go, hey, both of these guys are fairly close. This is an issue. You're not doing this on your site or at your company. You really need to implement this. And so it's good that you're making companies more efficient and, taking care of their people and so forth. If, as we finish up, if you were going to leave one positive thought or phrase, and it could be, directed to heat or not, that's up to you. If you want to leave one positive thought or phrase with our listeners out there, what would it be as we go into August and finish the summer and go into the fall?
Yeah. I'll stick with heat. The point I like to leave people with is to have a plan in place. It's always a very good idea to have your just strategies outlined in a plan. So, talking about those increased work breaks, talking about, acclimating workers to those hot environments, and, best practices when it comes to even clothing being worn that can combat heat. Everything like that. It's always good to have a plan together and written out, make sure everybody is familiar with it. And that way, next year, when the heat jumps up again, there's already something there. It can be taken out, updated as needed, and you're good to go for another season. So that I like to just reiterate, and also just keep an eye on each other. Watch everybody out there. And if somebody's not looking right, if they're displaying those symptoms of heat exhaustion or heat stroke, take action and get them to shade and get them medical attention.
What are some of the symptoms that someone should look out for heat exhaustion if they're not familiar with it? What would they be? I mean, I know what they are. Please.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So for heat exhaustion, you'd be looking for fatigue or weakness, headache, dizziness, blurred vision, excessive sweating. And then for heat stroke, that's where those symptoms kind of escalate to the next level. Whereas you can have extreme headache, you can still have extreme sweating, or you could also have hot and dry skin. And then also with heat stroke, that's where the mental state starts to change. You could have confusion, slurred speech, and even unconsciousness. And that is when call 911 if someone's exhibiting those.
Hey, listen, if you're out there, I know you see when people are, you could be one of your best workers and they're just not, they just don't look like they have it together. Hey, take that guy and let him sit in the trailer, or get him into the shade. You gotta look, listen, I'm a military family, so I got someone on my flank, who's going to have my six. So the bottom line is that if you see someone that's not looking like themselves, go talk to them and say, hey man, go inside there, or, go get something to drink. Have you eaten anything today? And all that, and all those things, the coach in me is always like, hey, before the game, make sure you guys load up, tonight on, not just tonight, you got to start doing it a couple days before. One night's not going to do it. Make sure you got food in your system and all of these things. So, it's really important, and like tomorrow when I go out, I got to go up to my lot. I got to clean up the lot to keep the HOA happy. And I got all these weeds I got to cut down. Of course, my wife's like, hey, you need to go get some help. I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. It'll take me a couple hours, but I got to put long pants on. It's going to be hot in the morning. I'm going to go up there. I take my big thing of water. I keep that little thing. Actually, my wife just got me a thing that I hold around my neck. It's a little fan.
Oh, excellent.
For those of you who don't know,
Nice.
if you keep your neck cool, Okay, you'll see all these athletes these days. They've got these bands they put around their neck. If you can keep your neck cool, you can keep your body cool. It's an amazing thing. But right around here in the back of your neck, it is just a really cool thing. So I have this little fan. I also have this little cloth that freezes up. All I have to do is, have it watered, and it's an amazing thing. Well, I forget who invented it, but I throw it in my lacrosse bag all the time in the summer because I'll sweat like 5 pounds on a Sunday night running up and down the field with my 2 ACL placed. But you just don't know, and everybody's is going to show those symptoms a little differently. You might even be going through a heat stroke and you don't even know it. So if you're not feeling good, open your mouth and tell us, hey, you know what, can you help me over to the trailer or whatever? If you don't know, ask to make yourself known, because the last thing you want to do is end up in the hospital or just anything happen. We don't want anything to happen. So this is just a really good cover. That's why I had them on here. It's really hot out there. Everybody's outside. Make sure that you take the precautions that you need to. So if someone wanted to get in touch with you and bounce some questions off of, hey, how could I get that data, or how could I get that equipment put on my site and so forth, how would they reach out to you at Travelers?
So I would refer people to the Travelers website, travelers.com. So that has a wealth of information about worker safety, workplace safety, and then also it's an overview of the Travelers Industrial Hygiene Lab services, and all that good stuff.
Okay. Well, listen, if you're a contractor or an end user and you're running a project, or an architect, whatever, if you're out there on the construction site, or if you're just out there doing, yard work, these are the things. If you have some questions and you'd like to know what the protocols that you think you might not have and that you didn't have in place, call Torey up or reach out to her, and or just Travelers in general, and find out. If you don't know, ask, and then you'll know. And it's better, listen, I was a Weebelo and a Boy Scout, be prepared, and we just lost power. Last week I was on the road, and then we had a huge storms came in and just whacked Atlanta. Probably a lot of people didn't see it, but I'm telling you, this town got whacked. There were trees that were knocked over and just a lot of it. But my wife goes, power's been out, and I was up in Milwaukee at a reception, and I flew back on Friday, and just driving back from the airport, I mean, there was debris everywhere, and some big trees knocked over, and the power went out. She was out for almost 24 hours, and we had just gotten a solar generator. So she had, she could plug her phone in, in the fan, and luckily the storms came in late at night. But by the time the power just came on the following day, the heat was starting to come in, so it would have been miserable in here. But some people lost their power for a couple of days, and had to throw stuff out of the freezer and this and that. So listen, heat can definitely get you. The cold can get you too, frostbite and all that stuff. So there are both ends of the spectrum. But if I had to take my pick, I think heat exhaustion and that's probably much worse, in my opinion. It's much more painful. And believe me, I grew up on, playing out on an outdoor rink, and I didn't wear socks in my skates. And believe me, the cold is no fun either. But heat is definitely much more brutal, in my opinion. So, well, this has been nice. Listen, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, I'm at David C at ccr-mag.com. Listen, we love looking at stuff. Send it to me. That's how, like I said, that's how Torey got on here. The publicist sent me to it. I look at everything, and getting in the magazine is very tough, but I look at everything, and we post stuff every day. You can send me charity golf tournaments, new products, new personnel, anniversaries. We run all sorts of stuff, on the site. And I normally have a TAT, that's turnaround time, for those of you who don't know that in the digital world. The bottom line is that I will come back to you personally, and I'll send you an email. Hey, here's the URL, you'll share it. It's good for both of our SEOs. And let me be the judge. I'll judge the book by its cover. And I know you don't like me saying this, but it's like playing the lottery. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win. So if you don't send me something, I can't get you on the show or put you in the magazine or up on the site. And that's just the way it works. And listen, if you're watching this video, listen, hit the like button. All right. We want to get the algorithms out there so we can get the message out there about heat exhaustion and having heat stroke and stuff. So let's make the YouTube algorithms, find this interview with Torey and help some people out there that might not be missing the protocols that they need to do to keep their staffs happy. So Torey, any last thoughts before we sign off up there in Hartford as we go into the month of August? Are you excited for the end of the year? Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Or where are you?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Whatever, I'd say, stay cool, be smart, stay hydrated.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. Hey, you could be on my coaching staff any day of the week, man, because I like that, So listen, all you out there, like I said before, couple things. I want you to stay, listen, go home, make it through work, be safe so you can see your family, so you can go over and do it again. Drink lots of water. I say it all the time. Drink water. It's good for you. And stay hydrated. You'll feel better. And, most of all, have fun. If you're not having fun, go do something else. Okay. And you'll enjoy your life that much better. So, Torey, pleasure meeting you. If I get up to the neck of the woods, I'd love to meet you in person. I'm not going to, fist pump you. I'll shake your hand and stuff. And, we'll, I'd love to see, the travelers, chemistry lab or whatever. That'd be an awesome tour. I've never.
It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool.
No, I'd love to see it. I like seeing all that stuff. I'm a gadget guy. I don't care what, if it's a new wrench or, I still have my erector set from when I grew up. Do you know what that is?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay. Well, those of you out there that have their erector set, good for you. I still have my erector set. I play with that thing, and here I am in construction. I build a magazine, but, so anyway, well, pleasure speaking with you. So for all you out there on Commercial Construction Coffee Talk, TGIF to you once again. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the rest of the summer. Fall's coming in. We'll get back to the swing of things when school goes in. Down here, school's starting in here in the next week or two. And then after Labor Day, there's other schools up north will get into the swing of things. But listen, it's been a wild ride over the last 6-7 months here. We're already more than halfway through the year. And before you know it, it's going to be the holidays and we'll be ringing in 2024. So stay cool, drink lots of water, and be safe. So, Torey, pleasure. Say goodbye to our listeners out there from outside of Hartford.
Yeah, thanks for having me, David, and everybody enjoy your weekend.
Yeah, and I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, just about 30 miles north of downtown Atlanta, up by the Beaufort Dam in Lake Lanier. And I think I'm going to hit the boat here tonight, later when it cools off a little. So, and I get a little breeze up on the water. So with that said, everybody, we will catch you next time on another episode of Commercial Construction Coffee Talk. Torey, awesome discussion. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And to all you out there, we'll see you again. See ya.